Hello people of YouTube, it's once again the Great James, and unless you've been living under a rock for the past couple weeks, I just finished the movie series at long last. So you know what that means, let's get into reviewing it, and then after that, I'll reveal what's going to be the next thing I'm going to be doing, if it isn't already obvious. And in case I forget, I'll leave it in the comments below so you can check that out. So yeah, let's get into it, because now I gotta go over a story, character, the look of everything itself, and the duel themselves. So, let's go into the overall story of everything. The basic premise of this is that Thomas, Beze, and Bensei, well, basically, Thomas and Bensei duel each other, and then duel each other again with Thomas retired, and then they team up with Beze, and the basic premise is these bad guys have all three Egyptian gods, go get them back. They do that over the course of about 7 episodes, and it turns out that after that, after that, it turns out that, well, that's what the bad guys wanted the entire time, apparently, considering now their evil master can come to be and inhabit the body of Thomas. Over the course of a random tournament that comes right the fuck out of nowhere, turns out that bad guy has, well, taken over Thomas, as we know, and has gone all the way to the finals to skip ahead a bit. In case you haven't noticed, I'm kind of skipping over a large chunk of things, so, you know, if you want the full story, I'm, again, summarizing. So, yeah. Those of you wondering how I'm summarizing about 12 to 13 episode series, because those episodes tend to be about half an hour long. So despite there being few of them, they're large, like the series Sherlock. Anyway, back to the point is, Darkness gets all the way to the finals and faces Bensei. And of course, Bensei, well, actually, he doesn't win against Darkness. Darkness manages to summon all 3 god cards, and then when he does that, Darkness himself gets his own body, and Thomas gets ejected from the body, and then it becomes a 2-on-1 handicap duel against Darkness, because apparently he can't leave and take over the world unless he finishes the duel first, because, well, to be fair, it does make a bit of sense by Yu-Gi-Oh! Standards. Unfortunately, Darkness is a prick and decides, no, okay, if I'm going to duel, we're going to restart this with me having a full field, and you get basically jack shit. I have 8,000 life points, you both share 12,000 life points. I start with 6 cards in hand, you share 3 cards each. Darkness is a bit of a prick. What a surprise. But despite that, Bensei ends up still being able to kill him. Thanks to, well, a little help from Thomas, of course. They are a tag team after all. Not to mention the fact that, well, Darkness was a bit of an idiot, but hey, what are you gonna do? And then Beze takes all the Egyptian god cards. Well, actually, no, I'm skipping ahead. After that, it actually turns out that Alexander comes down and chokes out Darkness, absorbing his dual energy, I guess, and then takes the god cards with him. So now we have to take the god cards from Alexander. And Alexander is, of course, the big bad we've been fighting this entire time, which is why I haven't been mentioning him once. Oops. Alexander is the bad guy of this entire thing. Aren't I good with frickin' plot points, everyone? This is what happens when you give summaries. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Oh well. It's called speeding it up. Despite me not doing that. Anyway, Darkness, Alexander goes and was off, and then and then in episode 7, which everyone basically agrees that should have been the final episode of the series, but whatever. We have an hour-long special in which 15 minutes of it is a flashback, and the other 15 minutes are 5 minutes of like our Facebook page, and the last 10 minutes are end credits because Thomas made them go at the speed of snails. In other words, if your favorite episodes of Brains was the recap episodes, you'll love this one. Just get to the beginning and the end. Either way, when we get to the actual meat of the episode, it turns out that, well, Alexander is facing Thomas one-on-one out of nowhere. Alexander beats Thomas, yes, clean in the middle of the ring, thanks to Dragon Ruler support. The sad thing is, this isn't even the first time Thomas lost. He technically lost just already once, considering the fact, but thanks to the effect of, like, basic tag duel rules going, fuck that, he kind of got around it. So it's like, he was in a tag duel with Beze and his life points at 0, but they weren't sharing life points like in some duels. It's confusing, but the basic premise is, since his team won, he still picks up the win, technically, you know? It's that sort of thing. So, well, after that, Beze and Bensei are basically fucked because they're side characters while the main character goes down. It's like what would happen if Yusei lost in 5Ds, which we never got to explore because Yusei only lost once in a flashback. Either way, They gotta go hunt down the 3 blue eyes, which Alexander for some reason gave to 3 random dual ghouls. No, not dual ghouls, his minions. And the minions have no reason to be having the blue eyes, considering one runs Black Wings, one runs Battling Boxers, and one runs Evil Heroes. What? Why do these guys need blue eyes? I mean, the only thing that could technically, theoretically make sense would be Black Wings, just because they could then use a light monster to make Chaos Emperor Dragon? No, wait, that's banned. Blackluster Soldier? Either way, after that, it goes down, they get the 3 blue eyes. They didn't have a sparring match duel in which no life points matter because they're just trying to hit each other as hard as possible with their strongest monsters and go to the max power. It's a little mini duel that doesn't make a lick of sense, but if you just want to see monsters with big attack points, you're going to love this. So, yes. After that, Thomas is restored back to full health and gets some new, blue eye support cards from the, at the time, recently released Saga of the Blue Eye structure deck. He fights Alexander, and what a surprise, wins, and then they get all 3 god cards. Thomas gives the 3 god cards to Beze so that Beze can lock them up and they can never be used again. That's not going to happen. And then the series ends with the duel of Thomas versus Beze. And we never see the ending, much like the end of Battle City of Yugi versus Joey. Or Jaden versus Yugi, if you really want to go to another way of doing it. Unfortunately, that's not the series finale, that's the season finale. So we still have more to go after this. After that, we have the random Rise of the Pendulum Knights. In which case, its new story arc is the basic premise of, these Pendulum Knights are attacking, go stop them. It's a basic evil invasion story in which people from other worlds are attacking. The Pendulum Knights are never really explained where they came from my knowledge. But I always just assumed they're just like, okay, people from another dimension who want to take over this one. It's like, I basically it's not helped by the fact that Arc 5 was basically doing this around the same time. So it's just like, okay, I'll just talk about the fusion dimension, except it's the pendulum dimension invading. So, whatever, The Pendulum Knights are basically all death fodder, just so we can have other duels. Obis is a good guy now. Obis was originally a bad guy. See how many points I'm skipping over? Unfortunately, Obis ends up being the best part of every series. I might as well be saving this for the end. Oh well. There's only turns out to be one really good duelist among the Pendulum Knights, and that's Abyss, because he runs Burning Abyss, and as we know, back then, Burning Abyss were even high tier. Technically, nowadays, once all Burning Abyss needs is their Link monster, and I think they can go back into curb stomping everyone at Nationals again. Because they are still a force to be reckoned with. Anyway, after we finally beat Abyss, thanks to, technically, Obis with Power Bond backfiring in the guy's face, we have, of course, Thomas returning, who apparently retired again. Yes, retiring really doesn't last in any universe, Yu-Gi-Oh! Or not. And Thomas beats the last of the 5 invading Pendulum Knights, only to find out, no, you still have more to go through. So, yeah. And then after those ones get defeated, turns out there was a trick to it. The guy who Thomas beat, called Wicked, he takes over Thomas, just like how Darkness did. And because of that, Thomas is now the last Pendulum Knight. And this totally isn't just an excuse we can give him the newest news Blue Eye support because of the Dark Side of Dimensions movie that was coming out recently. No. That would be ridiculous. Of course, now we have to have a 2-on-1 duel of Beze and Beze versus Thomas. In which case, Wicked. But either way, Wicked Thomas, of course, curb stomps Beze because we just have to get all that character development we made for him in the last story and just completely crush it. If you want, I don't have a problem with one of them losing the duel, but it's just like I had before the other one wins. It's just the fact that Beze doesn't even really do any damage to him. That's kind of like, guys, what? And Beze is the one to get the final blow thanks to Blackluster Soldier fusion form. The dragon destroying swordsman. I was just brain farting on his name. Don't judge me. After that, it turns out Wicked releases control, and we move on to our 3rd and final story arc with another tournament out of nowhere. Don't you love it? The Tournament of Power arc, in which case there are only 2 episodes of it. It feels like it should at least be in a 3-parter, but either way, I'm not the one who makes the series. The basic premise of this one is, it's in this tournament, people's decks have been changed to other people. It's actually a pretty interesting concept. Excuse me. So people change decks with each other as a basic, again, as I stated. Unfortunately, this doesn't go as interesting as you would think. Obis gets Beze's deck, Beze gets a random Red Eyes deck, Bensei gets a random Dark Magician deck, and Thomas gets a random Sacrifice deck, and Alexander gets the Blue Eyes deck. It kind of feels like we're kind of mismatching a little wrong. Like, I feel like there's one too many decks. It kind of makes sense, but it also feels like, guys, we kind of got a little too many mixed matches. Why can't... I know we're mixed matching everyone's deck, but wouldn't there be like one outcome where you just accidentally don't switch the deck? I don't know. The basic... So yeah, with that basic premise out of the way, now, well, as I just said, everyone has the weird decks, but since, well, the thing is, Alexander, when the deck switch was about to happen, used a dummy deck. So you know that dummy deck in Vrains? Means that Yusaku has when he's, well, not in Link Vrains, where he just has, like, basic bad cards like Goblin's Secret Remedy to give him 600 life points, Blue Medicine, just garbage shit like that, just so people don't think it's Playmaker. This is basically that. The problem is, out of nowhere, Darkness comes up and just takes over control of Thomas. So yes, right after the last episode, Thomas is brain controlled again. Ay ay ay. And then Thomas randomly gets control of the Egyptian gods out of nowhere, despite the fact that Darkness doesn't own them. Technically, Darkness has been taken away by Alexander, and the fact that he doesn't own the sacred beasts by nature or anything like that. Beze took them. Oy. This is more confusing than fucking Tragodia when it came to the frickin' the Planet series cards from the GX manga. Either way, even with that all happening, the basic premise moves on, and we go on to the final episode, the final duel, in which Bensei fights Alexander in a pretty decent duel, to be fair. In my opinion, it's probably the best one of the episode. And then Beze versus Thomas, or Darkness again, in which we find out that Darkness is a punk bitch and can't take a little burn. Ay ay ay. And then Thomas finishes him off. So Thomas has reclaimed control, and Darkness is a punk bitch, because he dies, technically. And then Alexander faces... well, technically it is a different order, but still... Alexander faces Bensei, in which Alexander loses, which, to be fair, I don't really have a problem with, all things considered. I don't mind the fact that Blue Eyes loses to Dark Magician. I mean, like, maybe just because I've seen it so many times, it's a bit biased. Either way, my point is, we have, again in the finals, Bensei versus Thomas, and this time we actually get it. And of course, we have to do this in the most fulfilling way possible. Neither of them are using their real decks. So, they're fighting in the finals, and Thomas finally beats... No, wait. Bensei finally beats Thomas using someone else's deck against Thomas, who was using someone else's deck. Isn't that a fulfilling conclusion, everyone? Also, when Darkness dies, Thomas for some reason keeps the Egyptian god cards, and he technically never gives them back to Beze. So Thomas is a dick. Oy. But with that, Bensei beats Thomas, and we end the series with that, basically. Oy. So that is the end of the story, if you want to call it that. It's rather confusing when you get right down to it. Now we have to go over the characters. So we have, again as I went over, Thomas, Bensei, Beze, Ubis, Alexander, Darkness, and... is that really it? I feel like I'm forgetting someone. I'm going to forget someone and someone's going to hate me in the comments. Well, I guess we could go to, like, Zoli and people like that, but they're just kind of like still filler characters either way. Zoli, Lazar, I guess, but the rest are basically just throwaways. Even like Wicked, like he just shows up at the last minute because reasons, I guess. I do find it funny though how Wicked shows up and gives Thomas the new Blue Eye support by accident, and then the next tournament Thomas loses his deck anyway, so he technically never got to use the new support cards. It's like, fuck you, Thomas, if I'm going down, you're gonna lose your deck. So, basically, the characters are, well, let's go over Darkness. He's just the villain, he's the big bad. He's Darkness, what do I need to say? You've seen Darkness from GX, you've seen Darkness here. It's a basic world conqueror, not really much to explain. Zoli, he holds the original Sliper the Sky Dragon. He looks badass, but it's just he doesn't have much to do. Lazar, he looks cool, but unfortunately, Lazar, you were in the episode 2, and then randomly appeared again in the second, and rather the first tournament, just to face Bensei again to show how far I've come. Because originally Lazar curb stomped Bensei. So yeah, Lazar's just kind of there. Oh god. After the, let's see, who else? Alexander, Bensei, Beze, Thomas, Obis. I guess we can go over Obis next. Obis is the most interesting. Well, Obis is the comic relief character, but he has good comic relief because his running gag in the series is taking his deck out and throwing it, saying, "This deck is a piece of shit," whenever he loses. And sometimes he does it even when he wins, like in episode 7. He's about to call a piece of shit and throws up, and then realizes he won. He's just like, "Oh, wait, no, I'll keep this." Obis is the most entertaining part of the movie series. Even when it gets to the bad episodes, his humor never dies down. So, yeah, I like Obis, if only just for that. Then Alexander, who is the big bad, and basically, if you've seen Bakura from the original series, you know Alexander here. He's just basically the control mode guy who's basically just trying to get his master back, all that jazz, blah blah blah, have his revenge against Thomas. It's by the numbers villain, but to be fair, the actor of Alexander does do a good job at it, so I'll give them that. What's left? Our original main cast, of course. Beze, you are there to be curb stomped and curb stomped alone. And Beze, you have the most interesting thing because your deck changes every 5 minutes. Ugh. Seriously. Beze starts out with a junk synchro, well, more like a synchro style deck using the Immortal Bushi and then just using all the level 2 or lower monsters to power up Junk Warrior. Or it's like insane power levels, especially with this Solidarity. And then he goes on into Ninjas. Then episode 7 exclusively, Elemental Heroes. Then he goes on to Buster Blader, and then he moves on to, like, what was it, Blackluster Soldier, and then to be fair, at the Tournament of Power is the only one that makes sense because his deck got swapped, but even then, since Obus was using it, he technically was still using the Blackluster Soldier deck, but he got switched into the Red Eyes Dragon deck, so yeah. Beze's deck changes like every 5 minutes. Like, I don't want to run this anymore. He's like me, honestly. He just gets tired of a deck and just decides, I'm going to do this now. I'm going to do this now. It's just like, I don't know. It's more like, I don't know. When I see a series like that, I just kind of need a bit more consistency between decks because it's like, okay, I'm going to see this deck from this character. If you want to change it like every couple episodes and then stick with that one, I guess that's okay. But just one of those things, it's like, I don't know what's coming next. Although, to be fair, I don't know if it's better or worse than Yuma, who had like 7 new cards in his deck every episode. And to be fair, also with Yuya. Meanwhile, Yusaku gets away with it, considering... I don't know why Yusaku gets away with it. Maybe it's because he doesn't annoy me. Either way, hey, Beze is just kind of sad, really, considering he's there just to get curb stomped to show off the new guy's power, because he's the third member of the... He's the third wheel. I'm sorry. It's kind of just even how the series sees him. Beze is a nice guy, but unfortunately he just can't, like, get the wins, I guess. I don't know. Beze's okay. That's my point of him. Bensei goes for the most character development out of everyone, considering, well, he lost to Thomas constantly. At the end, he finally wins using someone else's deck. How anticlimactic. So, yeah. Bensei is rather an interesting character, though, villain, because, well, he's the protege. The best way I can basically put it, if you remember Joey from the original series, imagine, like, at the end, he does defeat Yugi. It's just one of those things, just like, fuck yeah, we've come this far. We went from the noob, the scrub, to the king of games. Except Bensei never began as a noob or a scrub. He actually did win a tournament in which everyone actually mocks him for it, so Bensei winning an original tournament in the first episode meant jack shit because everyone says so. Well, to be fair, it's how Lazar recognizes him, so I guess that's one good thing to come out of it. And that one good thing was getting kidnapped and then have his deck stolen because Lazar runs Light Swords with JD. I like Bensei out of all the characters because you can kind of identify with him. He's the everyman sort of guy. So yeah, Bensei is good. And Thomas, at last, we have the main character of everything, in which Thomas, he runs Blue Eyes, so he already runs Blue Eyes White Dragon better than Sito fucking Kaiba, the guy who invented Blue Eyes White Dragon. So, the basic premise of Thomas is, well, to be fair, imagine Yusei Fudo. The guy doesn't lose very often, if ever. Well, then again, well, actually, it's not really Yusei, considering Yusei never lost, except for one flashback, just to give a reminder. So, yeah. I guess it would be more like Yusei in the manga, where he did lose on occasion. Okay, then fine. How about more like Jaden Yuki of GX, in which the majority of the time he wins, but he can lose every once in a while. That's my point. I don't know. I have a point, I just don't know what it is. Thomas is a very good character, despite the fact that he gets mind controlled every 5 fucking seconds. There's a running gag in the series that no one's allowed to activate Mirror Force, which is wrong technically, considering 2 people have been able to activate Mirror Force successfully, being Thomas being controlled by darkness, and Beze back in episode 2 in the tag duel. So the fact that no one can activate Mirror Force is the wrong one. If this series had gone on longer, or maybe if the Tournament of Power or arc had happened sooner rather than later, maybe like we switched the places to the Rise of the Pendulum Knights, then the joke running gag would be like Thomas getting controlled every 5 fucking seconds. I don't know. Ugh. But either way, Thomas is a good character. Just don't like the fact that he gets mind controlled every goddamn second of the day. Yeah. But yeah, overall the characters are fine, and so I don't really have anything to complain about there. How does everything look, though? That's a good question. Everything looks fine. I mean, I should have started this at the beginning, but this entire series takes place in Hungary or Hungary. I don't really know how the pronunciation is, and I was too lazy to Google it. But the basic thing is, everyone speaks Hungarian, and I have to have the English subtitles on for all of it because I don't speak Hungarian. In fact, I barely speak English. So, excuse me. So as a result, we see different landscape from what we usually are, in which case everything's a wide open field. Seriously. This is so against the United States. The United States looks at a forest and says, that could be a really good parking lot or shopping mall. They look at an open field and just be like, we should leave it the way it is. It's like night and day out here. God. How do you have just an abandoned field like that just lying around doing nothing? What the hell happened? Why is it abandoned? Why? I don't know why everything is just allowed to be abandoned and decrepit. I mean, I don't know. Just one of those things you're looking at just like, why has this stuff not been turned into anything by now? But everything looks fine, and the duels do look fine when we get to them. And the duels are all really good, even though the fact that at a point it just starts to be like, we're having a duel just so we can have a duel, and you guys want to see a duel. So, yeah. The duels are rather good looking, I will admit, though, considering... Well, again, they start off as the standard sort of thing, like if you're used to the usual whole, just having a picture of the monster on screen that's moving a bit, you're gonna like this. Although episode 13 and 14, despite having the worst in terms of the story, also has the best in the terms of the summoning animation, considering it looks pretty damn gorgeous and shit. I mean, granted, they're proxying every goddamn card in the deck, but hey, at the same time, the monster does look good. I'm not saying that excuses proxying everything. I'm just saying that it is nice to see regardless. Like, at least effort went into something. Oy. So, yeah, everything looks good, and the duels themselves are good. And fun to watch, if that means anything. I could watch episode 1 of the movie series, like, on replay non-stop and never get sick of it. At least that's my personal opinion. The later episodes, maybe. I don't know. It's not that they get back... But, I don't know. If I had to say my favorite episode out of the entire series, it would just be episode 1, personally, because it just feels like there's so much getting done in this. It just feels like this is an actual movie, despite it not being longer, despite barely being over half an hour. And if I had to say my least favorite episode, well, if it had stopped at episode 7, I would have told you episode 2, because nothing gets done in that series. It's just kind of there, or that episode. So I guess, but thanks to rewatching this series, I realized that that actually takes second place now, considering everything. Well, the first time I watched, like, the new series, when they came out with the new episodes, it was like, that was fine, you know. It wasn't that great, but it's like, it was okay enough. But then I look back and just realized half the scenes just don't have music. They're proxying half the decks, and the only thing saving them is the fact that the monsters look at them just like, I remember this looking better, or more professional. Maybe it's just because I didn't have a better standard back then, or because I wasn't doing this. I don't know. But it's just like one of those things, just like you look at it and just like, I remember this being better. Not good per se, but better. So I guess if you had to give it to anything, it would technically be episode... I think it would be like episode 12, I want to say, because... I don't know. The fact that there's no music missing for there's music missing from half of it, and well, they're proxying about every card on the deck. Not that and plus there's also the fact of, well... I don't know. Again, it's the one that screamed to me. It's like, you guys are just really just doing this because you feel like you have to, aren't you? Like, okay, I bitch a lot about proxying, but when it comes to a Yu-Gi-Oh series, I don't mind proxying every once in a while. Like, okay, here's how proxying kind of works for me under my general rule set of everything. I will never proxy a monster card. An occasional spell or trap every once in a while, I feel like I can get away with that, considering, well, they're just spells and traps, and if I show you a few spell cards or trap cards every once in a while, that's still okay. But the monsters, I feel like I can't proxy them because they're the ones that's going to be on the duel disc 24/7. So you don't want to be looking at a black card. You want to be looking at the card that's on the field to give it a bit of a more sense of realism. But having the fact that it's just a blank card kind of destroys that realism in a sense. It doesn't make it unbearable for me because I can still kind of buy it. But it's just one of those weird things. I mean, granted, I prefer this style of proxying cards as to just blatantly telling me that this is something else. Like, I don't know, summoning, showing that you're summoning the Celtic Guardian and then saying it's, I don't know, Blue Eyes White Dragon. It's just one of those things you're just like, guys, really? I don't know. It's one of those things that bugs me. Like, I'll proxy monsters on occasion, but here's the thing. I don't proxy cards that are over 15... I proxy cards that are over $15 unless they're monsters because I don't feel like I should need to break my bank over a card that I'm probably only going to use once in the entire time. That's just me personally of how I see proxying in these sorts of things. So I think you can proxy a few cards. Proxying all of them just feels like, guys, I know this speeds up the development and all that crap, but it just feels like you also look kind of lazy by doing it. So, overall, if I had to rate the movie series on like a scale of 1 to 10, I think it gets a somewhere between a 5 and a 6, considering, look, the first 7 episodes are really damn good, and then when we get like 8 through 11, I'd say it gets mediocre, and then the last 2 things are kind of like an anticlimactic end to everything. It's sort of like, it's hard to explain, but it's sort of like, I don't know, I guess, no, I don't know how to phrase this correctly, just like, it starts really damn good, then gets acceptable, and then just spirals downhill uncontrollably. I don't know. I guess it's kind of, if I have to, I guess it'd be sort of like the Sonic games, where it's just like, it's the classic series, and then when we got to the adventure series, it's like, this is really damn good, and then when it came to game, it was like, I guess, Heroes or something, it's just like, this is still okay. And then we get into the Dark Age with like Shadow the Hedgehog, Sonic 06, all that jazz. Just turns into like this is just straight up garbage, unplayable. It's just like, I don't know. I still think that if you just stop at episode 7, you'll be fine and satisfied there. But again, that's not the end of the series, so I don't know how you phrase it. Either way, I think that the movie series is good, but we have another series we need to worry about. And those of you who know my old channel know I have a very particular dimension to be worrying about. And it's a dimension named after a certain heroic champion. So with all that said, I'll see you for the weekend of the next series I'll be doing. Bye.